breakup, right, of the EU.
Yes.
Pew did a poll of 10 countries. 49% of 10 countries, we're talking France, Spain, Germany, don't like the EU. And the majorities in those countries, Spain, France, Germany, Italy, don't like how the EU has handled the refugee crisis.
Okay. Sebastian Gorka, I know you're still there. Last question to you. Are you happy with all this mayhem that's happening on the world's financial markets now that you got your way and it looks like the Brits will leave?
Look, I don't judge sovereignty solely upon the value of the pound to the dollar. So yes, this is par for the course. Markets like stability. The breakup of the EU will be a storm in a teacup for the markets, but we'll get over it. We survived Soros, so we'll move on.
We survived Soros. Yes, we did. Thank you very much indeed, Sebastian Gorka. Everybody, please pay attention to the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, where the total vote for the out campaign is now almost 12.7 million. We project that 16.7 million is the cutoff point. You hit that number and you have won. And at the moment, the out camp is closest to winning. If you just look at England, it's 51% out, 48% in. That's just England. Remember, we're talking about a United Kingdom, which is...
Right.
So there you have it. The United Kingdom now is 51 to 48. And we're still looking at a major sell-off in stocks, and a big sell-off in oil, and a big sell-off for the British pound and the euro.
Yeah, the British pound is now at 1985 levels, to your point.
1985 levels?
Yeah.
So if I were to go over to my home country and bought a few things, they would seem real cheap, would they not?
Yeah, my guess there are a few things for sale.
I think so. Whoa, Steve Moore is with us. All right, Steve, come on in, please. I want to see you. Are you on camera? Are you on? Yes, there you are. Yeah, okay. What do you make of this? I know that's your phone.
Yeah, because everybody's going crazy. The world's coming to an end here.
Now, look, I know that you wanted a leave vote. It looks like you might get it. Did you expect this kind of reaction on the financial markets? Because this is a bloodbath, Steve.
It is. Let me say a couple things. I mean, this is really a remarkable night. First of all, I think people should, in the investor markets, just breathe, take a deep breath, because I think people are overreacting to this. This is not the end of the world by any means, and I think in a few days everything's going to settle out. That's number one. Number two, I think it is so amazing that despite the fact that every single political voice in the UK and in Europe and the United States, with very few exceptions, all of the elite were against this, right, Stuart? I mean, we're against the UK leaving. This was a revolt of the working class in Britain, and I see a real similarity to what's happening here in America, actually, with just the elites are not being listened to by the voters. They feel as if they do want sovereignty, they do want independence. And one last thing that you might want to think about, Stuart, I think the big loser here is socialism. I think this is, what is it Margaret Thatcher said? Once you run out of other people's money, it doesn't work anymore. These socialist economies only work when they can raid the banks of Germany or raid the banks of England. And guess what? These other countries are saying, we're not going to pay for it anymore. So I think socialism is a big loser here.
Okay, Steve, I've got to tell you, and all of our viewers, independent television, that is ITV News, that's the other big channel, if you want to put it like that, in England, they have just said they've called the referendum results for the Leave campaign. ITV has called it. Not Sky, not the BBC, not us, but ITV has called it for the Leave campaign. The percentage at the moment is 51 leave, 48 stay. Quickly, Steve, parallels, not with America's economy, but with America's politics. Sweet.
I just see it. I see, the Trump phenomenon is very similar to this phenomenon that has gone on in England, where you have, all the elites are saying, oh, Donald Trump, we can't elect him president, it'll be a disaster. And so many of the working class in America say, well, wait, how could it be more of a disaster than what we have right now? So, there is a worker revolt around the world, and I think that's reflected on what happened in England tonight, and I think it might be reflected in what happens in November in this country.
Okay, let me also tell everyone that the BBC has just called the referendum for the Leave camp. So ITV, BBC, they've called it. That means the way they project it is that the Leave camp wins.
With more than 70% of the votes counted so far. So there's still vote counting going on.
And the turnout is an astronomical 72%.
Yeah.
You almost never get that in a national election.
Yeah, that's right.
In any kind of general election, you don't normally get
right.
72% turnout.
I would say that, honestly, one of the things that went wrong here for the people advocating for stay, which, as Steve points out, was nearly every authority figure in Great Britain, bankers and politicians, military, President Obama, everybody thought it was a better thing. I have to say a lot of their arguments sounded more in favor of the EU and the wholesome sort of continuance of the EU than it really was for the UK. But I make a parallel with climate change. They almost did too much. It was sort of apocalyptic, the image that they threw up. You know, it was sort of like, we are going to absolutely crash and burn, and there's no future for England. That's ridiculous. And I think people got their backs up. They stopped listening, and they decided to challenge those premises.
It's hard to fall in love with the European Union. How on earth do you express real sentiment and love for this nasty little group of people who are basically
and it's also anti-democratic. They have 4 presidents, none of whom are elected, setting rules for England on free immigration, business regulation, and the welfare state.
You're looking at me like I'm some kind of Neanderthal.
No. Scott Walker once defined Washington as 68 square miles surrounded by reality. I think one of the things that's happened here is that the UK has just gotten a serious dose of reality.
Yeah.